All you really need is a ballpoint pen, a white vinyl eraser, maybe even a small eraser stick, mechanical pencil, 0.5 lead, and a large graphite. The first thing to do is establish what your character is going to be doing. You're not really looking for exact proportions so much as a flow. As you continue to draw, you'll notice that some areas are not as big as they should be, or some areas are too big, and that's when you start to chip away a little more at it. For this character, we have someone that looks just somewhat like Harley Quinn. A big pet peeve of mine is a lot of people, when they draw superheroes that are women, make them look really flimsy and delicate. A woman who's out there kicking ass is not going to look dainty at all. A study on the head gives you several types of proportions. This kind of angle where she's slightly looking up is really easy to screw up, so I kind of wanted her to hold on to something or hold her weight up in the middle of her legs, but this just didn't look right, so we figured a gun might be best. Instead of using a light box right now, we are going to go ahead and mark the back of the drawing with graphite. Stick it on the paper where you want it at. This is how a lot of people make drawings that are really clean. They use light boxes and they transfer it, or they do imprints and transfers like this. You can take live studies of clothing or study reference pictures until you get this just right, but most of what I'm doing is pretty intuitive. It's probably not 100% correct, but it's something that I've been doing long enough to be able to fudge it. We have 0 reference pictures except for one, which was the gun. Now, when you're doing the inking portion, you really don't want to get too wrapped up in one area. You kind of want to go all over the place, but at the same time be very conscious of how your ink is going to lay on the paper. You cannot avoid your pen running dry over graphite, because graphite by nature is waxy and reflective, so it tends to build up on the paper if you've made it too dark, and it's impossible to write over with ink. That's why you see all the little squiggles. I'm clearing out the pen nib as I go along. I wanted to save the face for last in the inking portion because I was shaking at this point. I had way too much coffee, and I wanted to make sure it was right. You generally want to let your drawing dry in between inking and taking out the final pencil marks, maybe about half an hour. Otherwise, it's going to smear. Here we are using line weight to differentiate portions that are either separate from their surrounding items or in the foreground. Line weight's very useful. The thickest lines would be around body parts like head, hair, legs, arms, hands, and the medium-sized lines would be around where the clothing meets the body. And the very lightest lines would be in the hair, it would be cross-hatching, it would be folds in the shirts, because later on we're going to go back and see what kind of values we have to black in with it. So as you can see, we're going along. We're not really worrying too much about getting all the details in one area. I really wanted to pay close attention to the face because the face is one of those areas you screw up really fast and really easily. The hair, like the last picture we did, is just a suggestion of things. It's got a vaguely three-dimensional shape. It's not that important that we get it completely perfect. It's not photorealistic. Now at this point, I had to refer to a reference picture to draw the gun, because if you're trying to draw something and you don't exactly know what it looks like, just stop. Stop what you're doing and go get the proper reference pictures. And if you're doing something mechanical, make sure you have a guide. Do not try to eyeball straight lines and mechanical items. It's just not going to work. You can have an amazing picture and just have it completely ruined by having things that do not look like the way they're supposed to. Here we are getting all of the values in as sections that are crosshatched. Inking in graphic comic design, it's really about the mood. Some people are very light when it comes to inking. They just do outlines and they rely on the colorist to do most of the work. If they're working on a gritty piece, it's a lot of blacks, a lot of lines, but they tend to leave the lines away from the face just because, like I said, if it's a young woman, you don't want her lined up all over her face. It works the same way as it does in real life. The more lines, the older she looks. Very, very simple depth of field. We have the hair at the back being almost black, the other shoulder on the left side kind of retreating towards the back with cross-hatching. And there is the finished work. Anything you want to do, you can do it. Just takes a little time. And we have plenty of time.